You talk the talk. Can you cock the cock? No, don't answer that yet.
He just loves saying cock, doesn't he?
Norm Macdonald, real inspiration there.
Yeah.
Joey, this is great, and let's go through the history of you becoming a dick wrestler. How did you come? No. I mean, seriously, this has to be a great story, right? Because it's one of the really original things done in wrestling in recent years. How did you come up with the idea? Because that would not have occurred to me.
I stole it.
From who?
Well, I didn't technically steal it. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, or maybe you're with a significant other here, I don't wrestle dicks. Just to clarify. Not that I wouldn't, but if the money was right. But so I've always had this. Well, for the most part of my career, I've had this sleazy character, and I was wrestling for DDT Pro in Japan, and I was wrestling a character, a wrestler named Dan Shukudino, who plays a gay character, and the political correctness in Japan is slightly different than it is here, and he plays off the, being bizarre or, being over-the-top gay, and one of the things he does is he grabs his opponent by the dick, and they freak out, like, why is this guy grabbing my dick? And while they're freaking out, he, suplexes them or dragon screw leg whips them by their dick. I'm saying dick a lot. The cock is the key word here, right? But actually, it'll pay off when I say the story. So I'm booked against him, and it's the first time we're wrestling each other, and there's a bit of press for it. So we're doing these press conferences about it, and then I go and wrestle. We start planning our match, and he's always wrestling Japanese wrestlers, right? So he says to me, while we're coming up with some ideas for this match, he says, well, maybe I grab you, but maybe you no-sell because American cock is so big and so strong. And, I'm saying, well, yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, right, yeah. And then, through planning, we decided that instead of him bumping me, I would bump him. So it was kind of given to me. So in that sense, I did steal it because it was his idea. Because when that, we didn't think much of it. We went and did it. But when that, 30-second clip hit the internet, it just was crazy everywhere. Like, it was on ESPN. It was on the E! Entertainment Channel. It was on Stephen Colbert. It was just everywhere. And so, I was like, well, I could... this will probably be good for me for a couple months, and then everyone will get tired of it. But then, it just kept growing and growing, no pun intended. And, it became a thing, and then it started becoming my thing to do in wrestling matches. And then I started having to come up with different ideas to use it. Like, I wasn't always flipping people with it, like the Scott Steiner spot, where it does damage when it should be damaged. So then it just became the stories or the ring psychology of my matches were now about my opponent grabbing me by the dick. So that's kind of where that all came about.
Now, you've been doing it for what, 2 or 3 years?
It'll be 4 years in November.
4 years?
Yeah.
Well, how time flies when you're getting grabbed by the dick.
Right.
Now, describe the evolution of it. How much changes have you made to it since that initial debut in Japan?
Well, it's because in wrestling, you can't just Steve Austin doesn't. I don't want to. Even though apparently Scott Hudson compared me to the Dynamite Kid. I don't want to compare myself to Steve Austin, but Steve Austin just doesn't go out and do the stunner. He builds to it. He goes for it. It gets taken away, gets shut down. He comes back to it. Same thing with the pedigree or the sweet chin music. You don't just hit it. So the evolution of it is just come up with different ways to tease it, take it away, get the crowd to want it. Even the crowd that doesn't know they want to see it, all of a sudden will be like, I want to see this finally happen. And so it's just telling the complete story about, figuring out a way to make this dick flip make sense. And, the way to do that is to establish it early in the match and then make the audience or let the audience know or understand that that's what you want to accomplish. So the dick flip itself is pretty much the same as you see in the viral clip, but the way to get to it is much different.
Well, right, because when I saw you in Pittsburgh, you kept daring your opponent to touch your dick, but it didn't happen for like 12 or 13 minutes, and just the build up to that. I mean, you guys have seen it, right? It's just incredible. It was just something that I never imagined could work, but it obviously does. And I want to know about the character that you present, as the dick wrestlers we see here in the photographs. I'm going to, reveal my age here by saying this. It's got to be Harry Reams, right? It looks like Harry Reams, the 70s porn star, Deep Throat.
Well, actually, so
maybe you're not lonely like me and watch as much porn. I don't know.
Well, actually, the inspiration didn't necessarily come from one. Well, I guess. So I have 3 older brothers. So I grew up watching wrestling in the 80s. And when people first start wrestling, you kind of feel like you have to pattern yourself after the guys who are successful today, and that way, because if you want success, you have to kind of follow in the footsteps of the guys that are successful, in today's wrestling world. But once you start doing wrestling for a little while, it's kind of like anything else. You kind of get comfortable doing it, and you realize that wrestling's kind of a blank canvas, and you can paint any picture you want. And so I decided that I wanted to be a wrestler that made me fall in love with wrestling, which was 80s wrestling. So, I grew out the chest hair. I have a beard now, but usually I have a mustache. And I just I changed the way I threw punches to look more 80s-like. I started the way I walk, just because I wanted to emulate the guys that I grew up watching. And so I picked, an 80s icon to kind of pattern the look after, which was Magnum PI. So the floral print, that's where I got that from. The sunglasses, But what's 80s cool is in today's world, it comes off a little bit sleazy, So the basis of the look was 80s cool, but the attitude and the persona is based off the crowd's reaction to that look, which is creepy or sleazy.
Now, I think the gimmick can play on the indies, as long as you space out your appearances in the same place. I think it could play a lot longer. What do you guys think? But that said, emotionally, a lot of guys you've worked with and are close to are moving forward with AEW, which has so much momentum. Emotionally, is it hard to, I don't want to say left behind in that regard, because you're certainly good enough to be there, but the gimmick kind of does leave you behind, at least for now.
I'm sorry, what? AEW?
AEW. They know what it is.
Has anybody ever? I'm unfamiliar. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, you know what? Those guys are my friends. I mean, they're going to be my friends forever. I just filmed a thing with the Young Bucks last night. Their new YouTube show.
That's what I mean. You've been such a big part of being the elite.
Yeah.
You got killed on. No, you got killed on being the elite.
Allegedly killed.
All right.
Don't implicate Hangman anymore. Yeah, no. I mean, those guys are. And so I don't think necessarily at this point it's an all or nothing. It's not like, it's not like I have to get in on the ground floor if I do ever wrestle for AEW. It can be a thing when the timing's right. And, I've talked to those guys, and right now is not great timing for either of us, because my momentum is growing forward with the Dick stuff and the independents, and they're just trying to establish a brand. So again, bringing a polarizing figure in might not be what they need right now. So it's not saying that, because again, those guys are going to be my friends forever, and they have been my friends forever. So it's not saying that just because I'm not in on the ground floor doesn't mean I won't get in eventually.
We're going to take your questions in just a few. I think we'll see Joey Ryan on TV at some point, probably sooner and not later. We're going to take your questions in just a few minutes, so please get those ready. I can't wait to hear them, honestly.